Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Gahn?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here. At this time, I would like to invite Bernie McGurl and any guests he wishes to have come up with him to receive his proclamation. As I mentioned, our microphones are off, so
They should be good to go.
our microphones are working now, so just in time. So we'd like to invite Bernie up. So come on over, Bernie, front and center.
Just went over here.
Whereas the Council of the City of Scranton is desirous in honoring Bernie McGurl for his years of outstanding service, dedication, and commitment to improving the health and quality of the Lackawanna River, its watershed, and in the creation of the network of rails trails along the river. Whereas Bernie McGurl in 1987 was a founding member of the Lackawanna River Corridor Association, and since 1991 he has been the executive director of the Lackawanna River Conservation Association, LRCA, and also serves as the executive director for the Lackawanna Valley Conservancy. And whereas Bernie is best known locally as the Lackawanna's greatest champion for his ongoing efforts to clean and maintain the Lackawanna River, its 350 square mile watershed, and for raising public awareness about environmental issues. And whereas Bernie has also played a key role in the establishment of the Lackawanna Heritage Valley Authority, which has resulted in the acquisition of 40 miles of D&H railbed that was developed, thereby contributing to the creation of the Heritage Trail. And whereas Bernie is a proud fourth-generation descendant of Irish immigrant coal miners, grew up in Dunmore, was educated in Dunmore schools, attended Johnson College, Keystone College, and the University of Scranton. Whereas Bernie is a supporter of the arts and a founding member of the Mulberry Poets and Writers Association. Now therefore be it further resolved that on Monday, March 4th, 2019, Scranton City Council wishes to congratulate Bernie McGurl for being the driving force in the transformation of the Lackawanna River into a viable fishery with world-class trout, while also raising public awareness on such vital topics of land and water conservation, water pollution, and watershed preservation. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be made a permanent record of this council as a lasting tribute to Bernie McGurl. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you wish to say a couple words.
Sure, I will. Thank you.
I won't be long, but I'm sort of speechless. Wow, that was, I'm really honored. You get up a few years, you stick around here long enough, and you sort of get something done. And I'm proud of the accomplishments our community has made along our river. And it's really, I've been proud and honored to play a part in that. And it's conversation with friends, it's building community, it's building consensus and bringing people together that have been the keynotes of our success, both with the River Conservation Association and with the Heritage Valley Program. Creating partnerships with the Rail Trail Council, with our new conservancy, Lackawanna Valley Conservancy, that is helping actually to acquire some of the land, working with groups like the Rail Trail Council of Northeast Pennsylvania, all the way up in the headwaters region of the watershed, working with Countryside Conservancy and our next door watershed, the Tunkhannock, and working with community groups and neighborhood associations up and down our watershed. We still have a lot more work to do. I invite you all to continue working with us. We're going to be back talking stormwater in a couple weeks, and we're really excited about the progress that Scranton is making in assessing what the best methods are going to be to manage our stormwater situations going forward. And we're looking, and we're very hopeful that we can start to share that progress with some of the other municipalities in the community. So there's a lot on the agenda. I'm getting getting encouraged to retire because I have kids and grandkids out in California that I don't get to see often enough. But we're going to stick around and continue to do as much work as we can. And LRCA has recently acquired by a charitable gift the former First Christian Church up on North Main Avenue at 2043 North Main Avenue. So I invite all to come and drop by and give us a visit. We're hopefully going to turn the church into a state-of-the-art environmental and conservation learning center and start to have programs and activities there. And our offices are located in the rectory at 2043 North Main. So we welcome everybody's participation in our work, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Council, for this wonderful proclamation. I'm really honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything you do.
I would like to make a motion to take from the table file of the council number 52, 2019.
Second. On the question, this piece of legislation pertains to establishing a no parking zone along Lackawanna and Jefferson Avenue at the area of Kressler Court. Approval of this piece is a requirement in order for PennDOT to issue the highway occupancy permit needed for the proposed Jefferson Commons project. This piece is being taken from the table and placed into seventh order for a final vote. Anyone who wishes to speak on this particular piece of legislation may do so during fourth order citizens' participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it and so moved. Do any council members have announcements at this time?
Yes, I have two announcements. Hopefully this is the last time that I do a cold blue for the year. Hopefully we're just about out of that, but there is, Lackawanna County Commissioners did declare another code blue, which is a frigid weather alert. It starts 7 a.m. on Monday, which we're in the midst of right now, and it's going to end 9 a.m. on Friday, March 8th, so it's a quite lengthy one. A code blue alert is issued when forecasted temperatures in Lackawanna County is expected to reach 20 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. The goal of this notification is to make people aware of the extremely cold conditions, provide information related to health and wellness in cold weather, and publicize locations of emergency homeless shelters. During a cold blue alert, homeless individuals can assess an emergency shelter at the following locations: St. Anthony's Haven, 409 Olive Street, Scranton. Hours there are 7:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. And the Community Intervention Center, 445 North 6th Avenue, Scranton. Hours 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I also have one more announcement. This one comes from my old alma mater, Lackawanna College. Lackawanna College student-run restaurant is opening to the public. Reservations are required. Named the 409 on Adams, the restaurant is located on the first floor of the new Culinary Center on 409 Adams Avenue, aptly named. Students who work there will learn all aspects of the restaurant kitchen, enabling them to be job market ready when they graduate. This student-run restaurant is the first of the kind in our community. The students will be preparing and serving creative cuisines. Also, please know that all tips for service go directly back into this program to fund scholarship opportunities. To make a reservation and inquire about days and hours of operation, please call 955 or 570-955-1548. Ask for Susan. Good luck to these guys. I've been in the restaurant business all my life, and hopefully I see some of these guys apply, and I work with them someday once they're out of school. That's what I have for today. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any announcements? I have a few. This year's St. Patrick's Parade will be held this Saturday, March 9th in downtown Scranton. The parade begins at 11:45 p.m. at Mulberry Street and Wyoming Avenue, heading towards Linden Street and Lackawanna Avenue, turning onto Jefferson and then Spruce. The parade ends at the corner of North Washington and Vine. Please be mindful of road closures, as well as the many attendees and children that will be in our downtown if you happen to be traveling in the area on Saturday. This coming Sunday, March 10th, begins daylight savings time. When we turn our clocks ahead, please remember to check the batteries in your smoke alarms. Next Monday, March 11th at 5:15 p.m., we will have a public informational session from Arcadis to present their preliminary stormwater analysis. And on Monday, March 18th at 5:45 p.m., we will hold a public hearing on item 5B on tonight's agenda, 2-hour parking restrictions at 934 Beach Street. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A minutes of the Scranton Sewer Authority Board of Directors meeting held December 27, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Our first speaker tonight is Faye Franis.
Hey, Francis, Scranton. I want to address the article that was in the paper on Sunday about the tax-exempt properties. I don't understand why the properties on Mulberry Street underneath the dormitories that are like Chick-fil-A and all their businesses, they're private businesses that make a profit. They have nothing to do with the University of Scranton, even though they're in their building. Why aren't they paying taxes? Same thing with Ned Abrahamson. Why isn't the building that he's in, the church owns it, but why isn't he paying taxes? I mean, is it council's job? I don't know whose job it is to go after these people that should be paying taxes that are not. Like, is anybody looking into that? I don't know whose job that is. Pardon
I
me?
will say this, that a countywide reassessment would go a long way to solving a lot of those problems, because every property will be looked at individually. So that's
Other than that,
And I will
other
say-
than the tax assessment, reassessment,
Yeah.
is there anybody that is responsible for going after these people that should be paying taxes like Chick-fil-A? I'll give you another example, Joey Pica. He's a firefighter and he's also a plumber on the side. He has 4 properties, one at the lake, at Jefferson Township, a lake, a pond, whatever, Kaiser Pond, Pica Pond, okay? He's had it since 2014. He's supposed to be using that for letting children and other people fish. There's not even an access road there. So far, it's 2014, he said he'd possibly have it ready by 2020. That's 6 years, and he's still not paying taxes. That's a pretty good giveaway. Plus the other buildings he has in Scranton that nothing has happened with yet, but hopes to happen for all these kids. But I don't see anything happening. But yet he's getting away with not paying any taxes in Scranton for all these properties. Now, that's not a church. So why can't somebody go after him? I don't think it should be a reassessment problem when a person like you or me is getting away without paying taxes on properties they should be paying taxes for, with a front of environmental conservation. That's not right. It's not right at all. Now, I don't know what's to be done, but we, the taxpayers, are picking up the burden for all of that. Now, another thing. Mr. Evans, as far as the quality of life, you were the one that started this thing about saying, let's get money for the city. At Lackawanna College, you mentioned that we're taking in a lot of money from these quality of life tickets, so I guess you were happy about that.
No,
But then,
I never said I was happy about that, ever.
you said at
Ever.
Lackawanna College that we were taking in lots of money for these tickets. It's
and
right
did-
on tape.
Right, and I disagreed that we were bringing in lots of money. I feel the fines, their fees should be reduced.
That's now, but back then you said we were bringing in lots of money. You were happy about that.
I don't remember
It
being
was on
happy
tape.
about it.
Well, it's on tape. So what I'm saying is another thing. You wanted an app for people to call up, an app on your phone or something. That if you see something, say something. We talked about this before. That's pitting neighbor against neighbor. That's not the city, the neighborhood people's responsibility to squeal on their neighbors. That causes a lot of tension when you're living next to somebody. So you're asking people to do that, to squeal on people? We're not hired by the city. We're not inspectors. You have people that are hired to do that. It should not be put on the person to say, oh, we're going to give you an app on your phone to call up and report on somebody. Why should we be doing your work? We shouldn't be squealing on anybody. So
don't
that
have
app whole
Okay, you don't
issue.
have to squeal on anybody.
No, but you're asking other people to.
I'm not asking anybody to do anything they don't want to do.
But you're giving them an app that they could call up if they see something.
Because they want to do that.
If they want to,
not
you're
squeal on their neighbors,
encouraging
they
it.
want to report blight to
Well,
clean
that's
up their
blight.
neighborhood.
If you see blight of your neighbor's grass is high or something, that's
Yeah.
blight.
Is there something wrong with that? For somebody to complain about that? Is that
Yes.
wrong?
Yes. If you want to, call up the city inspector and have them come. Don't.
That's what you're doing, except you're doing it on an app.
No, but then they're going to say so-and-so called. Why don't you have these people, like the policemen that came and ticketed these people, right? They were walking the neighborhood, and the inspectors, why can't they see these things and do something about it?
I wish they could.
Versus, well, then
I wish
hire
there was a
more
more
people.
proactive approach. I do agree with that.
Pardon me?
Absolutely. I wish there was a more proactive approach. I do agree with that.
I just don't think having people even calling up and saying such and such, well, the neighbor's going to find out that you called.
Why? How are they going to find out you called?
They assume. A lot of people are going to blame people.
So we should let blight exist because we're worried about somebody.
You don't live there, Wayne. It happened to me.
I've been reporting
My
blight
neighbors
for
got
35 years with my name attached to the report.
My neighbors thought I called on them, 2 of them, and I never did. So that caused a lot of problems in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure that can be a problem, but in
Well,
most
it is a
cases,
problem.
most people would want to step up and they want to make their neighborhood better. and
Well, I
think
will
that's what
never,
this is about.
ever want to call on my neighbor, ever.
Well, that's good. That's fine, but that's not going to solve the problem.
Our next speaker is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, city resident and taxpayer. Did my ears hear correctly? Are we hearing from Arcadis next week at 5:15 in these very chambers?
Yes.
Okay. Now, explain to me the scenario. Is this going to be we listen but we don't get to ask questions, or do we get to ask questions?
It's going to be a presentation as far as I know.
So we won't ask questions?
Yeah, it's a public informational session, so it'll be a presentation.
Okay. Will we see a document so that we can be knowledgeable as we listen to them? Will there be a document, a draft that we can look at?
It's going to be more of a PowerPoint presentation, so I would expect a document to go along with that. So we'll see
Okay.
if we can make sure that there's enough for the public.
So this is preliminary findings?
It's a draft, yeah, it's a draft of the findings,
Okay.
yeah.
Have we got a sensing of when the final product will actually give
Well-
birth, you know?
For all intents and purposes, it's pretty close to a final product.
Okay. And that final product, will that go on the city website?
I don't see why not.
Pretty,
Yeah,
please?
I don't see why not.
With
Why not?
sugar on it?
If it's a report that council receives, then it should go in a third order, and then it
Oh,
would be
please,
included
that
in
would
the
be
packet.
perfect. That would be perfect if you could do that. That would be one way of getting around waiting for IT to put it on. God be praised. Okay. Last week, we talked about the annual financial report for 2017 that came out of the Comptroller's office. And we mentioned about the disclaimer about the $130,000, which wasn't tied to any particular account or line item. I found out later that week that it had to do with the discrepancy between the Comptroller's report and the city's independent audit with regard to the $42 million operational deficit at the end of 2017. And speaking to Mrs. Novembrino and her staff, I understand that Mr. Bolzoni is going to talk to the auditors to see what was behind this discrepancy for $130,000. Have you had any feedback on that issue from Mr. Bolzoni?
The only thing we received was that they are trying to determine the discrepancy as well. I'm looking at the email, and they're trying to have it identified.
Okay. Just for your information, I took a quick look at the audits for 2015 and 2016 to see, did we have operational deficits in those years as well? In 2015, we had an operational surplus of $3.5 million. In 2016, it was an operational surplus of $3.9 million. And in 2017, it was a deficit of $42 million. Now, these documents, like the independent audit and the annual financial report, are documents that you should take some time when they come out and take a look at these numbers. And I'm not saying that you need to analyze every number on every page, but there are key numbers. And I just did a quick and dirty scanning of the document last week, in addition to finding the operational deficit of $42 million, and I'd like to know why we went from a surplus to a deficit, because there's no narrative footnote explaining that number, and I think you should ask the same question. Things like, expenses going up in the mayor's office, the law office, special items. Basically, expenditures went up over a 5-year period 100%. They doubled, okay? Taxes went up in a 5-year period, 43%. And real estate taxes specifically went up 77%. And the net bonded debt per capita, I mean, per citizen, that includes little bitty babies and old ladies like me, per capita, the net bonded debt went from $933 to $1,302. It's an increase of 40%. These trends are ominous, okay? Mayor Courtwright's been in office for over 40 years. Pell tells us we're on track to come out of distressed status. But these numbers are telling somewhat of a different story. If you can, please find out not only what that variance is, what caused it, but tell me why we have a $42 million operational deficit at the end of 2017. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Norma Jeffries.
Good evening, Council. It's Norma Jeffries, a city resident, and I haven't been here for a few weeks because Monday night's my Bible study night. But because of snow, I'm here to present some things that I've been accumulating over the months, the weeks since I've been here. I just wanted to start off with to say that I'm a Lackawanna alum as well, Lackawanna College, so, you know, good school. And I went on to down to Beaver College, down outside of Philadelphia to finish up. But one of the things I started to think about as I watched the television and watched the different presentations that were made, I kept thinking about my old job that I used to have when I was working. I was a project manager for a Fortune 500 company, and I worked on a lot of projects. And when I would go into a meeting, it was very critical that I gave an update to my manager on the different projects that I was working on. Never did she ever have to ask me, or he ever asked me, about the status of a project. So as I look at the things that I've talked about and I've heard about over the last few years that I've been coming to council, I wondered about the different projects that we spoke about here, and what is the status of those. So in my spare time, you know, I went to the website, and we talk about the website that we have out there. And I couldn't find anything on the status of them. Could I give you a copy of this? So there is a link on the page that talks about projects. But when you click that link, it goes nowhere. So I was thinking, I said, well, what are the different projects that we work on and we talk about here in City Council on this website? And that's a link, and click a link, and we can see the different projects that we're working on. So the first project that my favorite one, is the treehouse up in Scranton Park, Nail Park. And I was thrilled when I saw that it was awarded to a vendor and they had started to work on it. But maybe because of the cold weather, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. They put up the concrete poles and they sort of cut down some of the branches, but that's as far as I can see. So anybody have an update?
Other than it was weather-related, there's no doubt about it.
Is it still going on?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Because I don't see any activity up there, that's why. I live a block from the park, so of course I get there quite often. So
it's still going on, yeah. I'm not sure when they'll be back. I'm sure they're waiting for the weather to break again. We're having another cold week again, so hopefully soon, when we finally get some
So that link that I gave you all would be a perfect place to put something like this so that I wouldn't have to come and wonder what's going on.
I agree.
The next thing was the street signs. I got to put my glasses on now. And the street signs contract was awarded in September 2018 to KS Engineers. And it was quite an extensive information that appeared on the website, council meeting, about what they were going to do. And it seemed very aggressive to me, because they talked about that they were going to put Google Maps, and they were going to ride around the streets, and they would go throughout every mile of the city. We have 263 center line miles of roadway, and they will take photographs, real-time photographs of every single street sign or lack thereof, and blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on and on and on. There's lots of information here. And I thought to myself, I said, boy, that's a very aggressive plan of taking care of the streets. So I always thought, I said, well, maybe they're just going to overemphasize what they're going to do. But I have not seen anything out in the streets, and not that I'm out in the street all the time, but anybody have an update on this company and the Google Maps trucks that we're supposed to be seeing?
I believe that the GPS part of it, that portion has been complete, but I will get an update for you this week and the other part.
That's another project. If you had on that little link, you know, I could just go to that link and I could see what's going on. The C-Click fix, I don't know if this is what Faye was talking about or not, but that was quite interesting. I went online because that was supposed to be something that was supposed to be for us as well. So I Googled it and all the different cities that are using it, and they have great feedback. So I got to the point where I could create my own account. So I did. I created an account. Oh boy. So I created an account, and there's a lot of people that have gone on there and have issued things about the street signs, about potholes, about faded street signs, you know, different things about the city, but it just says open.
Yeah, it's just
So
sitting
is
there,
anybody
right?
working on those?
The RFP didn't go out yet, but it will be going out soon.
Well, why allow us to put stuff in there if it's not going anywhere?
Well, that's just the way the system is built. It's not an open system. I mean, I think that's true with any city, but it's not operational right now, so that's what's happening.
So that they just put information in there? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't finish, but the one final thing I wanted to say, too, was an article on you, Wayne Evans. It was quite informative, and I appreciate that because being back in the city for 3 years, you know, it's interesting, and like I've told some of the other council members, I enjoy seeing you guys out among the city so I can get to know you better because I don't, know you. So when I read articles like this in the paper, I appreciate it, and I thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry, but we've got a minute over, so.
Yes, okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll be back one of these days with my other things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bob Bowles.
Evening, Council. Bob Bowles, Scranton. Mr. Donahue, I believe I saw you the other evening up at Penn State. It's disappointing I didn't see everybody else there. It was one of the most critical things that could be happening in our community and throughout our state is recreational marijuana. And Mr. Donahue, I give you credit for showing up, at least understanding what's going on. But I don't know why the rest of us didn't show up. This is a critical situation. Mr. Gahan, your children will grow up one day at 12, 13 years old. It'd be okay to light up a joint because it'll be recreational, because we're doing nothing to stop it. We have an epidemic going on. You could take your medical marijuana and then go outside and smoke your recreational marijuana. We have no restrictions, but our public officials aren't standing up for it. The only public official that stood up and spoke about it was Commissioner Cummins, myself and a bunch of others. I spoke on the safety end of it. Last thing I want to see is somebody driving a tractor trailer or a car down the highway high as a kite, or flying an airplane. I'm a pilot. Would you like me to be flying your commercial flight and just put my joint out and got into the cockpit and flew the airplane because it was recreational? Or a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon or somebody going to do an operation on them? This is a critical issue. There's no regulation to it. You could smoke as much as you want. You could do as much as you want. Alcohol, we control. Have your couple drinks and then go take your medical stuff and then go light up a joint. We got a time bomb going to happen, and it's all about dollars and cents. It's not about common sense, it's about dollars and cents. And we need to speak out to protect not only the people today, but the youth of tomorrow. And that's why parents of children today better worry about their future tomorrow. And you all need to be held accountable for not showing up there for whatever may happen in the future. And I'm disappointed in all the public officials that didn't show up there the other night and speak their view. You want a police officer going down the road smoking a joint, pull a weapon on you? Or a firefighter? And I could go on and on. How about an EMT in an ambulance? I'm a first responder. I know what it's like. I've been in the accident recovery for 57 years. I know what it is to pull babies out of crashes and families that have been destroyed because somebody was drunk. I've already had them that were high. And nobody gives a damn because it's about dollars and cents. And we need to stand up to the plate. And the issue here of the mall, Mr. Gahan, I brought that up last week, and I'd like an answer. Are we going to get our 500 parking spaces unrestricted, or are we going to get our $5 million back from the owner of the mall? It's our money. You were heading this, you were heading the letters, you were doing all this, and I really come to you to get an answer now. I don't want to see the P's pushed around. That's our money. That's our taxpayer dollars. And you're responsible for it. I want to know why we don't have our 500 parking spaces. I don't care what he did with them or who else is involved. Those are our spaces, or give us our money back. Those are the taxpayers of the city of Scranton that are being burdened by overassessment. Yet I haven't seen you speak out about it, and I'm disappointed in it. You're the poster boy for the Scranton Times on the ethics. I think this is a very dangerous game to play because it's a double-edged sword. You're worried about who's going to get finance money. Is that to keep people from campaigning, say, against you or anyone else? To limit their ability to raise funds because you may have more money than they do? But there's always another way around it. Because for every law that's active, there's another law that breaks it. So if you think that ethics part on campaign contributions is a restriction, far from it. There's 100 ways around it, legally. Just so you're aware of that. I asked you about Hinton, and I'm asking any of you. What are we doing about Naog Park? That's an ethics violation right now. You passed the law. Are you going to enforce it? Those are the issues.
On the issue with Mr. Hinton, we received, it was probably a few months ago, a letter from the mayor's office stating that there is not going to be a coffee shop run by Mr. Hinton.
It'll be afterwards, but it's happened now. He could go ahead later on, but right now, he's violated the ethics. The deal should be negated completely and put out for bid. Then it's over with. Other than that, you're just leaving it lie on the side here and do nothing about it. And the last thing I want to bring up is, and it was very disappointing, we have a candidate running for office, Frank Scavo, who was assailed unbelievably over the Muslim Act. I had offices in downtown Tehran, and I know what it is to deal with radical Islamic Muslims. That's what this is all about. We do not need crazy people in our country. I understand that, but this is our city. I'm talking about we're not restricting. Our president hasn't restricted. The past administrations are turning around saying we didn't want anybody here. We want a legal, safe community, and everybody needs to pay attention. We're running rampant here with sanctuary cities and other things that put our people, especially the youth of tomorrow, and our senior citizens in jeopardy, and we got to get our head out of the sand.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wallace.
you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Good evening, council members. John Litwinski, Gordon Avenue resident. I thought we were going to be able to take care of all this at the caucus beforehand, so I'm sorry about
I just got your message now, so I apologize. Yeah, and just so, I know there were many people from the neighborhood here that, regarding this issue. Council's caucuses, when we have guests in, are...
Am I still on the timer, Pat?
We'll give you an extra minute.
All right, thank you.
Council's caucuses, we do, we have speakers in, but there's not a question and answer from the public. It's not a public forum in that manner. But we have these caucuses every week. I know people came this week that have a specific issue in mind, but the time for addressing council or asking questions about any of these issues is during our regular council meeting. So if there's any confusion about that, we apologize on our end. The floor is yours, Johnny.
Thank you. Okay, you start the timer. But anyway, I came here December 5th. Everybody knows what I'm here about, and provided council with approximately 130 police calls to the Keystone Mission within an 18-month period. Those police calls were everything from disorderly conduct, suspicious person, drugs, weapons, DOA, overdose, suicide attempts, emotionally, mentally disturbed persons. These are multiple phone calls to the same facility over and over again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I know I am right now. After coming here last time, I received many phone calls from parents whose children walk by the rescue mission every day. Then I started getting phone calls from people that are, I guess, in the running club. John, we're afraid down there. Other family members are calling me. And, you know, Pat, Wayne, you guys, I mean, we're fellow realtors. You know, like me, I'm up at 5 in the morning every day. I go day and night, 7 days a week. Plus, I got several family members with medical issues, so it's craziness. So for me to take on this too is just, it's nonsense. But, you know, since I came here, and it really comes down to, you know, and I provided pictures, people vomiting outside our homes, staggering, syringes, watching them smoking crack, synthetic marijuana, on and on. And I'm not going to go on all night. I know other people want to speak. My only thought is we did have a nuisance property up the street. I think it was last summer maybe. It was a 2-unit property that was turned into a rooming house. There was multiple rooms. They all had doors, locks on each doors. Bad drug deals were going down. Our properties were actually hit with bullets from that on the top of Mineral Avenue. And how we got that resolved, I don't know if anybody's thought about this, but if somebody can maybe look into this and follow up on this, let me know. But how we got that handled was through a zoning appeals board hearing. So we notified the owner of the zoning appeals, and many people came, and they ended up, the city actually shut the property down for 6 months. So if somebody, is there anybody
probably what happened there, John, was that was probably an illegal rooming house. It was an apartment. How many apartments was it originally?
It was a 2-unit.
2-unit, so they illegally converted it to a rooming house. Therefore, they had to come before zoning.
Yeah, but then the police were there
approval,
multiple times.
And obviously, they were denied, and then that was the end of that. But I think we'll have to look into this, and we'll look into the zoning issue. Maybe they don't have permission, but I imagine that the mission has permission to be there through zoning. That's what I mentioned before the meeting, is that we're doing our zoning code over this year. So if there's a way to zone that out, not that you can zone that particular use out, but if they move, it would allow for that never happening again by changing the zone on Olive Street.
All right, so what do we do next then, Wayne, as far as the zoning appeals for that property?
Yeah,
Is there anything that could be?
We'll look into the zoning issue, and I'll see if they have all of their permits and make sure that they have zoning approval.
Okay, because I think it was zoned for a church, now it's a mission or something, and...
Yeah, you had a lot of latitude with churches, but I'll look into the zoning part of it.
All right, so I'll be in touch with you
Yeah.
then, right, Wayne? Thank you.
All right, thanks, John.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Kevin O'Boyle, Scranton. You're talking about that, John's talking about that rooming board house. That used to be a one-family forever. My wife lived down the street. He shut it down for 6 months, come back. It's back to where it's renting out a room for $125 weekly. So he's not boarding it, but again, that's not the problem. That is one of the problems.
The rule is 4 or more unrelated people per dwelling unit. So if there's more than 4, then it's an illegal rooming house. If it's 4 or less, then...
Oh, there's more than 4.
Well, then it's illegal again. So we'll have the zoning officer look at that.
But we've been fighting this for years, and it's since they bought the property. But Pat, Bill, you know what I've been going through with that. That's here and there. Quality of life, these people dismissing it. That's no quality of life. Same thing with up where I live. I live right across the street from that house. But right across from the street from that house, they have an auto repair, which is just one little garage. It was never zoned for an auto repair. We are in light industrial, not commercial. We fought that too. Now that whole street is all oil, antifreeze. The guy just plowed today on a tractor, plows the snow out to the end of the street, that if you come off of Silage Street, which is off of Mineral, there's a car parked right on the sidewalk. Again, I've been fighting that. But if you come off of Silage, you can't see up the street. And if you're coming down, you go around, you don't ever know there's cars parked in the middle of that road all the time. Fighting is like a losing battle. But as far as this mission and stuff, that's another thing. They come up, Mineral Avenue's here, then we have Barrett Court. They come right up behind Barrett Court. There's an empty lot there. The house was tore down. Weeds, everything else sky high, never taken care of. Guy was going to put a trailer on there and sell tires. I said, no, you have to have barriers. This and that. He's screwed. He got it out of there, never took care of anything else.
That's on the side by the railroad. That's on the side by the railroad tracks. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, the railroad tracks in the back there,
Yeah.
Barrett Court, and there's a big opening between Barrett and Mineral Avenue.
Okay.
But they go right between there. The homeless, they come right up that way. There's kids. My neighbor just had another baby. So he's got a 3-year-old, now a newborn. And they're right on Barrett Court there. So, and there's kids all over the place. They have these kids walking from the school. They have nowhere to walk. The kids will walk out in the street so they don't have to walk on that side of the street. It's terrible. Something needs to get done. Like I said, I've been fighting a losing battle about up in Mineral Avenue, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I wish quality of life, I wish somebody would come around. Cars, no tags, junk, man, dropping cars off in the middle of the road. Now, if somebody has to get down there, my sister-in-law's husband, up in age, God forbid an ambulance has to get down there, and they're dropping off a car. How did they get down there? I just wish something would get done with this quality of life and all this other, and that mission especially. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address council?
Mike Guzzi, Scranton taxpayer. My parents live right on the other corner of Olive and Gordon. My mom sits in the yard. She can't even sit in the yard. They relentless throw garbage in the yard. I mean, my mom's yard's beautiful. She takes pride in it. She's 77 years old. Can't even go outside. It's brutal. Obviously, nobody cares. I mean, I love my mother to death, and her quality of life is terrible. You guys don't even care. Nobody even comes down into that neighborhood. No one. We have not seen anybody down there. Anybody. It's ridiculous. They, excuse my language, but they piss, defecate everywhere. There's garbage everywhere. You pull up the end of Gordon Avenue, you can't even see down Olive Street to get out of the road because they're out on the sidewalk 10 deep. Nothing gets done. Nothing. What are we going to do about it?
Well, I have been down there. I actually met with people from the rescue mission. I was in their building.
You might as well talk to this right here. Because that's what it's like talking to them. You go in there, they say, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. That's all they say to you. You go over there with a legitimate complaint, like a gentleman, knock on the door. They say, God bless you, God bless you. You might as well talk to that wall. They don't address nothing. Nothing. They don't address a thing when you complain to them. They come out with their bags, they go right around the back of the building, and they throw all their garbage. They take out what they want, and they throw all their garbage on the ground. Tony Contafio witnessed it the other day. He was standing in front of his building, there's a dumpster right there. They took all the garbage and threw it all over next to his building. The man went back there and said, "What's your issue?" The dumpster's right there. Nothing gets done. Nothing.
And this is, I understand everyone's frustrated. This is why we had the caucus tonight with the police chief, with the district attorney, and there's been other correspondence that have gone out to other people as well. So we're working on it. I know you've been dealing with this for years, but it's only been brought to our attention, I think it was at the end of last year.
We were here in a meeting. Everybody was here in a zoning meeting. It was zoned. They wanted to put a rehab thing in there. And what they got out of it, they got it classified as a church. There's people staying there at night. They live on the porch. Go over there at any time at night. They live on the porch. They're on the porch, sleeping on the porch. Across the street where Sonia's little restaurant was, they tore those 2 houses down. There's enough garbage up there to fill the 40-yard dumpster. A 40-yard dumpster, you could put, and I bet you probably need 2. All the tents, they had all the tents there. They said they, quote, cleaned it up. I would like somebody to go up and take a look and see what that looks like. That's all from the mission. If the mission is so good, why don't they make them people go over and clean up their own mess? There's disabled cars sitting over there. They're living in the car across the street. The kids walk by there. The kids don't need to see that at all. Would you want your kid walking by that?
Certainly none of us would.
I'm just saying, would you want your nephew, would you want your niece, your nephew, anyone walking through that? There's pedophiles there, registered pedophiles over there. Our cars, I've been there 40 years, never had an issue. Our cars, everybody, Johnny's window got blown out. The neighbor that left with her grandkids, her wallet got stolen. My car was broken into. I have it all on camera. Nothing.
Again, for the public, if you want to address council, you have your opportunity.
That's my wife. She's my second voice.
Okay.
Sorry.
So she could come up after you if she wants to.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But, we've never had to deal with this. I'm there 40 years. Mrs. Callahan's there 66 years. My parents are there probably 55 years. My Uncle Junior, my Aunt Peggy lives out in front of me. It's a family community. John's 2nd generation. I'm 3rd generation. In the homes down there. Mineral Avenue's the same way. It's a joke. It's a joke. We get no support. You know why? Because we're 7 houses, and that's all that matters. There's 7 houses. There's 7 of us down there. And everybody down there is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th generation in them houses. Everybody. We get no support. We get no police support, nothing. The kids come by, they're walking in the street because they can't walk on the sidewalk. Because there's so many people congregating in front of the place. It's a nuisance. No answers.
Again, this is why we had the meeting today with the police chief, with the district attorney. If there was something we could do instantly to have this resolved, we would do it. But I could assure you this, all 5 of us are well aware of what's going on.
It's a safety thing with the kids. It's to get out on Gordon Avenue. I'd love to see somebody, I plow. My plow sticks out further. So I have to creep way out now. Now my blade is out in the road to see around that corner. And who gets tagged for that accident? Me. I'm a taxpayer. We're all taxpayers here. Nothing gets done. And I know you said you're working on it. It's been how many years? It's been 5, 6 years.
And like I said, I understand you've been dealing with this for many years, and I understand how frustrated you are, but council just became, and I know there were zoning issues, but council just started working on this a few months ago. So I asked for a little bit of patience with us, but we are all committed to finding a solution for the neighborhood. Like I said, I understand it's been going on for many years, but really...
We're all 2nd, 3rd generation. We all grew up in that neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. It was a great neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Council. My name is June Iden, and I'm here to talk about also the rescue mission. I'm here with the 10 other people that came here. It's a nuisance. You know, we've been dealing it for years. You've been down there. In back of my house, the fence intersects, my property intersects with the rescue mission, and there is all kind of garbage, tents, clothes thrown all over the place, and it's disgraceful. Across from my property, there's a tent there, a chair, a gas can, and all kind of garbage. And we are totally sick and tired of it. And Pat, you were over there, you saw those tents by my house, they're back there again. What can we do? And I know you say you're working on it, but this is going on for years. What we want to know is when that first was down there, it was fought tooth and nail, and it was supposed to be a church. And we would like to know how that became a rescue mission, because nobody from this neighborhood was ever notified that it was going to be anything else but a church.
And I'm glad you mentioned the zoning point, because that's
Yes.
something that
Yes.
we just became aware of tonight, that it was.
Yes.
And again, that's another avenue for us to look at. I know I wasn't aware, I don't know if any of my colleagues were
When
aware
I'm going to
that it
work in the
was-
morning, I see those people, they're standing right out there, and they look like they were there all night. They were. Yes. Last Thursday, all of our cars were broken into on Silex Street and Mineral Avenue. We're not blaming the rescue mission, but we just don't know who would go up on a dead-end street and go through everything and ransack everybody's property. And we're just totally sick of it. You go down there, it's filthy down there. I'm ashamed to say I live down there. When anybody comes down there to visit me and they go in my house, all they see there is garbage, it's filthy, tents, and I want to bring up what my brother-in-law said about that property on the corner. It's just disgraceful, and I have a junkyard next to my house. There's about 10 cars full of junk over there. I know a junkyard's not allowed there, but we keep going on and on and on, and nothing gets done about it. So I'm hoping that maybe one of you could come down and take a walk through with us with the 10 people that came here, because we are totally fed up with it. The warm weather is coming. God knows what's going to happen there. But I have to say that I am ashamed to say that I live in that neighborhood. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Stanley Wilkins. I own Olive Street Automotive Service. I have had 3 in the last 4 years physical confrontations with individuals from the rescue mission. I've caught them defecating in behind my signs, urinating on my customers' cars. I understand you guys are trying to find a new avenue for them to go to, but my suggestion to you is to get a timeline for them. If they don't have it done by X, Y, or Z, to shut them down. I know that they were dragging their heels. They've been looking for a place for well over a year now. It's not hard for them to find a place. I also suggest to council, if they do find a place, that it be on the outskirts of town, away from residents, away from viable businesses. It's, how long is this going to have to go on before a resident gets killed down there, a business owner gets hurt, or somebody gets killed down there because of somebody's on drugs, that's fighting the police? I've had to assist the police 3 times on my street, 2 for overdoses and 1 for a riot with the school kids. There's a police officer who can sit in Turkey Hill for an hour, hour and a half, the bicycle cop, watching the students come out of the school, but they can't post a police officer up at the mission at the time that the missions are doing their feedings and their prayer thing. These are things that should be addressed by city council. I'm a former veteran, or I'm a veteran, former Army. This is going to be a bad situation one of these days down there. I see it every day. It gets worse. I've seen people getting beat with nightsticks down there, getting stabbed. I'm asking you guys to do something quickly.
One good suggestion you just made, and if my colleagues agree, I think we should send the chief of correspondence asking for increased patrols in the area. I don't know if they could have an officer stationed there for a set amount of time, but that's one point. And the other you brought up, obviously, with relocation, and I know you don't want to hear this, but we also don't want them to go into another neighborhood where we're going to have where the same problem's going to happen again. So I think that's important as well, that the relocation takes place into an area that is
'Cause
not a residential neighborhood.
Right, we don't want to, I mean, I understand its purpose, it's a need, they have to have the help for whatever reason they need it, but don't put it in a residential area. Don't make them go to it if they need it.
Right.
It's too accessible in the city, in the middle of the city. I don't have my kids visit me at my business for the mission, for what's going on down there. It gets ridiculous, especially in the summertime. You see a rise in the summertime when they all migrate back from Florida or wherever warmer temperatures they were at. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Marie Schumacher. First, I'd like to start with a couple of thank yous. First to the DPW. When I went out this morning shortly after 4 a.m., the streets were clean and they were treated. And they did, I mean, they've been doing a pretty good job all along, but today was really, usually it's not that early, so I want to thank them for the job they did today. I want to thank Bill Gaughan for following up on my Scranton plan questions and providing me a copy. And I will have some comments on that because I think it's mislabeled. But, and then I can't read my writing. Oh, I also want to thank the Times and particularly Joe Kohut, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, for the Who Does Pay article that was in yesterday's paper. And I would like to be so bold as to suggest to him from this podium that he considers an analysis of all of those municipalities that are relying on the state police for their police force. Some of the things I think would be interesting to see for the entire state and might wake up one of our sleeping representatives in the House and Senate. I would really like to know the population density in each of those. I'd like to know the budget of their municipalities per resident. And then, as I say, maybe some changes could be made. Now, moving on, the seminal study preceding the lease of the city's parking assets to NEC was performed by Desmond, and I believe they are also a consultant to NDC. And they describe the Electric City Garage, located at 106 Penn Avenue, is a freestanding four-level structure originally built in the mid-1950s with a five-level horizontal expansion added in the mid-90s. Total parking within this facility is approximately 658 spaces. Now, if you go back a little bit to 1993, a Times Tribune article from December 1993 informs us that the construction of the garage theater project would include the 8 screens, 1,850 seat theater, and also a 350 space parking garage. Now, the funding for the $6.9 million project, again, this is back in 1993, was to come from $1 million from the city, $2.8 million bond issue by the Scranton Parking Authority, so that should have all probably gone to the parking garage, $2.3 million from the Scranton Mall Associates, and a $1 million state grant. So there's a lot of money invested in that property. Now, 53% of the Electric City Garage, therefore, was about 20 years young at the time that the city sold the Electric City Garage to Steamtown 300, without an appraisal of the property, and agreed also to pay $2.85 million, or 55% of the estimated $5.1 million required to renovate the garage. And I believe a number of parking spaces were guaranteed for the exclusive use by Steamtown 300. In addition, NDC agreed to pay Steamtown 300 $19,000 per month for rent, or $228,000 a year for 40 years. More recently, Steamtown 300 appealed their assessment and claimed that structure is worth $25,000. I'd buy it from him for that if he would like to sell it with all those goodies attached. The tax board disagreed with that, and now a court hearing has been scheduled for March 21st, I believe. Yes, March 21st. Now, this was in the paper on the 18th of February. The school board has made a motion to go on board with this. You, as a taxing authority, also have a right to do that. My question is this city going to step up?
Well, at the last appeal hearing, I did ask our representatives to be there, and I'll ask them again to be there.
I'm sorry.
At the last hearing, we asked our representatives to be there, and they were there, so I'll ask them again to be at this hearing, absolutely. I'll make that request to our law department to be part of it.
I hope somebody comes, and I wish just one quick thing. I wish the question one of you would have asked tonight of the police chief, and I'll have more on both of those early things later, but does the city police force have a test that can be done on site for a DUI for cannabis as they do for alcohol?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay Walsh. I live at 918 Harrison Avenue. And now you're complaining about the emission, correct? Well,
Mr. Walsh, address council.
Well,
The camera's on you for the people at home.
The issue is the people. And actually, I found a mission out in Des Moines, Iowa, that will accept them, and they put them up for 120 days, 24/7, 3 squares a day, and at the end of that time, they actually will have a job or a whole situation. I spent 10 days at that facility.
Mr. Walsh,
and I've already...
Please address council. We're not going to go into back and forth with council members.
You see with your eyes, I'm here, I'm speaking. Okay, so the fact that
Mr. Walsh, please address council. Like I said, there's
well,
a
the
camera
point of the
on
matter
you for
is
TV.
there an issue here? And
if you have a suggestion, we're happy to hear it.
You've tried to address it, okay? But I gave you a clear-cut way how to do it, and I've already sent people out there, okay? So the fact of the matter is, you got people down there hanging out that you don't want there. What I found was a solution to put them in Des Moines, Iowa at Bethel Mission, okay? Simple, okay? Because they get bounced out of the homeless shelter here at 8 o'clock in the morning. They wander around the city or they go CIC. They eat dinner down there, and they've opened it up during Code Blue. And one of the people that ran the place has already been arrested for pedophile. One of the guys who ran the place, okay? I complained to the district attorney, and they got him, okay? So please, I'm very proactive, Mr. Rogan, okay? Which brings me to the point of the idea that you missed last week, but I went and did my research, okay? The county charter, you're under the county charter and the prison board.
No, we are not.
And you are,
no,
okay?
The county government, government is under the county charter. The city, Mr. Walsh, I'm not going to argue with you. You could speak your mind.
Because I did my homework, and when I go into the legal books, I basically find the precedent, and there's precedent, okay? You have responsibility for what went on at that jail.
You're wrong. I don't know how more clearly I could say that. The city does not oversee the county jail. That's overseen by the county.
No, it doesn't oversee it. It falls under it.
It does not.
And you need to hold those commissioners' feet to the fire to do the right thing.
Well, if people have an issue with the commissioners, they could take that up in May on election day.
We've brought it up with the commissioners, but it also extends to any authority across this county. You're all responsible.
That's not how government works, Mr. Walsh.
No, that's how the law works, okay? Government and the law sometimes don't coincide, okay? We know this. With your $300 garbage tax, where Dunmore charges $150, what it costs.
Dunmore doesn't have a garbage fee, actually.
Well, that's what interviewed a couple people up there that said, yeah, they thought they paid $150 a year. Well, they don't have any, okay? So why do we have $300 a year?
Because Dunmore has a landfill in their municipality. That's why they get it for free.
Well, you basically should hold the, that whole thing is basically getting down the wash because it's a RICO. And once you get involved in a RICO, you lose everything, okay? So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, either you're aware of or you're not, or you basically want to turn a blind eye.
Sir, please, no yelling out from the audience. Mr.
Okay.
Walsh has 5 minutes to speak.
Now, let's take the notion of one nation under God. How can you sanction the death penalty and abortion, okay? That's not the work of God. That's the work of Satan. You might as well say we're one nation under Satan, okay? I touched base with my friends over in the Vatican. The Italian army has come in and annexed the Vatican into Rome, and 100 cardinals were arrested, as it should have been done a long time ago. They said they were basically, they were just tired of looking at the same old thing, same old issue, and they basically found 16 boys. So that's a good step in the right direction. Now, I listened to Mr. Cummings chastise Mr. Cohen the other day, and he might as well have been talking to the mirror and talking to himself. Okay? We don't need government. We need referendum voting, and we, the people, should conduct it. Okay? And I'll ask Matt Flynn Saturday night.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
No, I get one more ring there.
No, you don't.
Why?
Your 5 minutes is up. Your 5 minutes is up.
Yeah. Because you can't stand the truth.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Council. Josephine Boyle, Sandy Banks resident for, I'm going to give my age now, 62 years. I'm here to try to find out exactly how the zoning was changed at the rescue mission, if someone could look into that for me. As we said before, initially it was zoned as a church. They were trying to put a methadone clinic in there at one time, and we fought tooth and nail, and they decided to make it a church so that they could help people. They could try to help the homeless, give them a place to eat and whatever. But I'd like to know who exactly and where the zoning was changed, because none of the neighbors were notified. I mean, we all live within 100 yards of the mission, and we should be notified, but nobody was. Just to reiterate, the mission with the clothing, you walk down Olive Street, there's clothes all over. We had a cleanup through the Pine Brook Neighborhood Association. They cleaned up the upper, part of Olive Street by the trestle, and the garbage that they hauled out of there, it was disgusting, and it's disgusting again. They get these clothes, they throw them all over the neighborhood. Behind my sister's house, it's a disgrace. Mineral Ave, I mean, like I said, I was very proud of my neighborhood, and as I said, I'm a third generation in the neighborhood, but it's gone to the dogs. Somebody found out about our little nest eggs that we had back there, and they just destroyed the entire neighborhood. It's a shame, because it only consists of Silex Street, Mineral Avenue, Barrett Court, and Gordon Avenue, and Anthony Street. That's it. And, one place could destroy a neighborhood so bad. And then again, of course, we have the boarding home issue. But again, that'll be for another time. And the garage. I mean, Silex Street is so filthy. I lived on Silex Street. That was my homestead. And now I'm up on Mineral Avenue. And I'll tell you, it's a disgrace. You have people come in from out of town. You're ashamed to have them at your house, because they have to drive through filth. It's disgusting. So just to reiterate, something has to be done. I wish somebody would find out from the zoning how that actually got changed to become a mission, because in the beginning, Reverend Schultz had us at a church, as a church. And excuse me, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so I'm not really speaking. I'm nasal, I'm sorry. I apologize. But again, the mission, something really has to be done because the kids going back and forth to school. I have grandchildren. I don't even let them come over. I go over their house because I don't want them in the neighborhood. I have a dog that I used to walk down the trail every day. I don't even walk her down there anymore because there's syringes, there's human feces. It's disgusting. And now it's not only our neighborhood, but now it's going through the trail. And that's a beautiful trail, and I hate to see something happen to that. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Reed, if we could also send another correspondence out to the zoning officer asking for the history on that parcel, on how the zoning has changed, what variances have been approved, if any, and what the current approved use is.
How you doing, guys? Tony Cantafio. I own Cantafio's Collision. I'm right behind the rescue mission. I just want to add a little bit, basically, of what everybody's been saying tonight. I came here for that reason. I have 4 children. My wife and kids come down the shop. My kids aren't running around playing in the area. People pop out of bushes, pop out of trees. I wanted to have my 13-year-old weed whacked a lot, give him something to do. I find needles over there, garbage, glass, spoiled food. I have to be concerned about my kid getting a needle flung from the weed whacker in his leg. Throughout the years I've been there, probably since '06, operating since '07, in their neighborhood, a body shop, garage doors opened, air compressors running, sanders, grinders. We're all friends. Everybody's great, thank God. No complaints at all. This place came, since I've been down there, and it really is a horrible situation. I'm in my office every day. Glass windows, blinds down. I could see out, nobody could see in. Watching this all day long, thinking to myself, these guys have to live here. And they've lived here their whole life. And it's really unbelievable. I live in Dunmore. I've been down there. It was a great neighborhood. It still could be. The garbage. I go out my front door at least 3 times a week. If I see somebody walking down the street, I just go and look, because that cup is going to get thrown on the ground as soon as they get like halfway down my garage. There's a dumpster over here. Pick it up, throw it in the garbage, put it back where you brought it. My dad picks up a rag on the ground to wipe his hand. That's somebody, they probably wiped themselves with that, And then running a business, customers pulling up with their cars. I'm outside doing estimates. People walk down the street all day long, passing back and forth in a huddle. They walk around the corner from the mission. Maybe, God knows what's going on because I can't see it over there, but I'm the next property over. They walk down to me all day long. I have a video of a guy leaning up against my front door on a Friday, midday. I peeled the blinds back. I videoed. We were this far apart. He's smoking a glass pipe, and it wasn't marijuana. I don't know what it was. Hacking, spitting all over my building. He's right next to my door in the middle of the day. Like, it's a serious situation. Everybody says they know what's going on, and people are looking into it and stuff, but it's something that really needs to be addressed fast. I don't think it should be allowed to operate, and especially with the school right there, students walking back and forth, leaving the street like everybody said. Every day I pull up to that stop sign to go home for lunch. I roll down my window. Like, they have no respect. You can't even see the traffic coming. You have to creep out into the road. That's a serious hazard. I have to deal with it 4 times a day, every day of the week. The garbage, people went to the bathroom. They leaned on a customer's car and went to the bathroom in front of my front door. Like, I'm out there with the hosing human crap off my sidewalk. And, the summer months, it smells like a bathroom in a basement. Like, the whole area smells that's how much people are going in the woods down there and stuff. It's just horrible. And drug use, people puking. I park my trailers in the lot between that business and mine. People leaning on the trailers, puking all over the tongues of the trailers that I'm touching with my hands, hooking up to my truck. Constantly. Laying in the middle of the road. I called ambulances multiple times. They walk up the street like zombies. I don't know what they're doing, what they're on, but there's nothing good coming out of the doors of that place. The clothes they give them goes all over. The food, cups, coffee, it's everywhere. I make so much garbage at my shop, you know, in the dumpster, in bags stacked behind the dumpster. I pick up garbage all over the place that's not mine. And it's the only place it comes from. It's a real nice neighborhood. Everybody's been there their whole lives, multiple generations. There's only a few houses in there, like they said, but, and they're not just complaining about a business being in their neighborhood either, because I've been there for 13, 14 years. So, thank you.
Thank you. Tony, thank you. Before you go, if you don't mind, over here. You operate a business there, so I'm sure you're there quite often. My schedule jumbles around a lot, but I'm pretty sure I'd be able to get in touch with you pretty easily. If you wouldn't mind leaving your phone number,
yeah,
and I'll get in touch with you, and we'll make a date where on my next day off where I can get down there and spend a couple hours with you, maybe walk around, check it out, and then you can even let any other concerned people know on the date that we finally hash out.
That'd be
and
great.
we get down there.
Absolutely, yeah. If you spent a day down there, you wouldn't believe it.
Thank you.
Jeff Sick, 127 West Market Street. I applaud you guys for bringing in the district attorney and Chief Graziano. I have a lot of respect for Chief Graziano. I think he understands a lot of the problems in the city better than probably even the district attorney. So, the district attorney, although has to follow federal law, I'm not sure why state law, I'm not sure why he's so worried about federal law, especially in a town where dispensaries are dispensing a federally illegal product. Is he concerned about that? Well, the thing about it is he's really concerned about the arrest tonight about, marijuana possession. In the city of Scranton, this year so far, for drug sales and manufacturing of opium and cocaine combined, and drug possession, opium and cocaine combined, 4 arrests on a uniform crime report system. Either we're reporting them wrong, or there's only 4 arrests in the opiate community. I understand we want to get away from arresting people who have problems, but in the marijuana community, cannabis, I hate the word marijuana, it's rather racist, 31 last 2 months. You guys want your police to do something? Take care of homeless? Take care of the opiate? I heard a lot of needle problems tonight. 4 arrests for possession and manufacturing. And I'm just giving you the 31 is just small possession. We're not talking manufacturing or drug dealing here. I could add those numbers in here, and that'd be a lot more. But I'm going to the lower numbers here so you guys understand. We can wait federally for this to happen for the next 80 years. It's been 80 years, 85 years exactly. 85 years, and we can wait another 20 as it is. Or we can stop using human lives as capital. You guys, for the opiates, no problem. We can do whatever we want. We'll create it right up from my store. It's great, and I like those guys. They're good people, and what they're going to do is a great job in our community. Blueprints for recovery, taking care of people who have problems going out taking. That way our cops don't have to deal with it. But cannabis, can't do anything. It's federally illegal. Going out and doing heroin's cool? That's all right? We'll get you help, but we'll arrest the cannabis addicts. I'm not even calling you addicts, because cannabis doesn't even prove that cannabis gives you addiction. People don't use cannabis all the time and don't have problems. Heroin, different story, right? Now, Chief Graziano, I have a lot of respect for that man. He works his ass off in the city, and he does a great job, and it's not his fault. Like he said, his officers pick and choose. Own words. You know who gets chosen in this town? People of color. And it's not me who's saying it, it's the frickin' reports. 3% of this population got arrested 8 out of 31. I don't know what that statistic is. I don't have my calculator doing it, but you all understand. I've been here before saying it. Whether you like it or not, the policy is racist. Period. Want to talk about federally? Is that okay, federally? Pick and choose? I applaud you. I applaud you for taking this up. I know that we have the vote here to do it. I'm not going to ask you to vote for it. I'm not going to ask you to go against the district attorney. What I'm going to ask you for is to sign a resolution of support for the state to get their shit together. Because it's their responsibility, not you gentlemen. You guys shouldn't stick your neck out for anybody. It's the state's responsibility. They're taking a stance against legalization as it is. Unconstitutional stance against it. So, you know what? We're sick of it. Our time has come. If they all wanted to vote, voice your opinion, you should have came the other night in Lackawanna County. It was overwhelmingly in support. I had a friend that stood up looking at 5 years of arrest in Luzerne County. 5 years for possession, small possession, 5 years, because he's standing up going to jury. He didn't plead. If you plea, sure. If you plea, you're going to get a little break. But if you don't plea, if you stand up for yourself, you're getting time. 5 freaking years. He stood up. Nobody said we want to see him go to jail. Not one freaking hand. It's got to stop. The city of Scranton drives Lackawanna County arrests. That man's workload at the district attorney level is because of the city of Scranton, not Blakely, not Dunmore. They barely arrest people for cannabis. They can give a shit.
Sir,
Yep,
please,
sorry
let's
about the
maintain
language.
some decorum.
But, I'm going to end it right here. I think I've said enough. I appreciate you guys for what you've done. Some may not agree with it, but the numbers don't lie. 4 arrests. That's 16 this year. We're having a freaking epidemic, and no problem. It's all good, man. It's not right. And you guys know it. The district attorney is not right, and he knows it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dave Dobson, resident, taxpayer. I guess, do we have a malfunction with the cameras or something with the opioid caucus? And it won't be rebroadcast, right? Sorry, I missed it.
Not sure. The mics weren't working during them, but I know they were trying to turn the cameras on, so I'm not sure what we got. We can check.
Oh, maybe you could try, and I won't get all bent out of joint if it's not on at 2:30 tomorrow. That'd be great if I could see it. I thought maybe it was just a scheduling problem. I tried to put it on at 5:15, and I could come down here at 6 o'clock, and I prefer to listen for one session anyway. We had that article on tax exemptions in Scranton, and once again, I'd like everybody to hear it. It's time we take the state to task. If they want to declare somebody a tax exempt, the county wants to declare somebody a tax exempt, that's just grand. What do we do about the lack of money in Scranton? When it starts getting into millions and millions and millions of dollars, and we're so far behind the 8 ball that we can't pick our heads up, then it's not right. It's not right. The hospitals and the colleges and whoever service the entire county and even beyond. We might even have quite a few foreign exchange students in our colleges locally. So that's just wonderful, or our universities, but somebody else has to bite the bullet for a change. The answer isn't to keep raising property taxes on poor old grandma and grandpa. And I'm about getting into that age too. I'm 65 on April 11th. So we've seen on 2 properties, one across the street from your headquarters, your business headquarters, Wayne. Isn't that being leased by the Scranton School District, that school?
St. Mary's?
Right across from Pittston Avenue?
Yeah, I think it's vacant right now.
They don't, the school district doesn't rent it. They used to, but
Yeah, they
they
used to.
consolidated all that over in Green Ridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then we have another institution that's got law offices in there and so forth. And, you know, it was like the thought occurred to me when they were leasing that, and obviously paying money on it, maybe they could have just donated it for that it be maintained or something, the space, seeing as they were tax exempt in the first place. I mean, it's like some of these institutions are turning a profit on tax exempt property that they're obviously charging a good dollar for. I was down the Polish Union building years back, and I got a lot of help from veterans. And I mean, maybe they're paying rent, maybe they're not. I don't know if they're a government institution or not. I just needed to file for a veteran, a relative, to get a small pension for his World War II service for his wife, and they were very helpful. I got so many forms I didn't know where to go, you know. And on the quality of life, hopefully we can lessen the fines, and maybe we could get some, if we got somebody sentenced to community service, maybe we could get somebody down there to help those people on Mineral Avenue, you know, get some kind of project going. It's just atrocious what they're going through. And naturally, I spoke out for the other people last week, but they have their problems, and homelessness is becoming a bigger problem every year in this country, because we insist on granting tax exemptions for companies to automate. And like out in Indiana, that deal, before we assumed the presidency, well, they take the $8 million and they're putting it towards automation. So what does that do for the average guy? Makes them homeless someday. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Perry, any motions or comments?
A couple comments. Passionate meeting tonight. I liked hearing from everybody. This is really the true spirit of what a city council meeting should be, I believe. It's dual parts. It's one part public participation, which drives a lot of the meeting, and then it's also our 5th, 6th, and 7th motions. To get back to a couple earlier things, it seemed like a meeting ago, Mr. Jeffries, I believe you spoke about that little spot on our website where we can kind of put ongoing projects and up-to-date I know, like even like the Novembrino project, I get asked on a regular basis, where are we with this? And a lot of times, and not just with governmental projects, but with business projects, private sector projects, things stop, start when they weren't really supposed to. But in the private sector, we seem to do a better job communicating that than we do in the governmental sector. So I think we can also do a better job in that. Sometimes I'm sending out emails and having Lori chase down some leads for me on, you know, why did construction stop when we were giving out dates. And once we give out those dates, you know, those are our dates now. Now I own that date. So, you know, I feel the need to live up to that, and then I have to go back and find. So I think that's a good idea, and that's a lesson I learned probably a year into council. I have a big binder. I'd bring it to council, but it got too big with different projects and different things that people will bring up. You know, remember 6 months ago when we started this? When's this? Where are we with that? And a lot of times we move on to different projects and different things. It's not that things get put in the back burner. We just put more effort into what's currently on our agenda. And if we don't get the follow-up that we were supposed to, sometimes it gets lost in the sauce, then we have to go back on it. So I think that's a good idea that we can get going and get that trying to cooked up on the website. The bigger issue, one of the bigger issues tonight was Chief Graziano and DA Powell coming in. I was very happy to hear that they wanted to come in, that they wanted, we got them out here, which I thought was a good idea. It's unfortunate that ECTV was having some technical problems, so I honestly don't know what is going to be televised and what's not going to be televised. You know, I hope for our residents that it's all televised, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, I wanted to start the question of the decriminalization process because I am not the all-knower. That's what I know, that I don't know everything. So I like to get answers from a lot of different parts. So that's why we had the judicial system in, and we had the law enforcement sector in. And, you know, this conversation just started. It didn't end. I know the state's doing their thing, and it seems like the federal government is actually moving the slowest on this. But I like the fact that the state is now full steam ahead with their medical marijuana, which I'm 100% a proponent for. I've spoke on that many times. I've seen it work firsthand, and I've seen when it wasn't available. I've seen my father fall into a bad state because he had to depend on opioids instead of having that other option. So I've lived both sides of the tale, and I'm very happy to talk in favor of that. So again, this is just a start. This isn't the end of that. We'll be sourcing out for more information and keep the communication going and keep that dialogue moving and get us to where we think we need to be as a city, county, state. Now let's talk a little bit about the Keystone Mission House. This is something that I believe Mr. Rogan was brought to our attention in the middle of December last year. Now, obviously, for these residents, it's been going on a heck of a lot longer. We've known about it since December. In that day, we sent correspondence out to 2 different sets of entities. We sent one out to licensing, inspections, and permits to see if everything was up to date on the Missions House end, and the other correspondence was sent out to the Scranton Police Department to make sure that there's no illegal activity happening there, and if there is, please take it out. It should not be there. I've been kept up to date with Chief Graziano. I still have all the reports he sends me on a monthly basis on incidences that happen in and around that area. Sometimes it's just a stop sign violation, but if it happens within that vicinity, he updates on us on what's going on. That has really tailed off. It's not the 120 incidences as it used to be. It's a lot less. Now, there's 2 sides to that. What does that mean? Does that mean that the criminal activity has really stopped? Or does that mean that, unfortunately, the people in that area have come so complacent, so frustrated, that maybe they're not reporting it as they used to, or things come common ground? There's that guy again. You know, maybe he was caught and released on a misdemeanor, and now he's back because, you know, what else does he have to lose? He doesn't have much to lose. So if you're going to arrest somebody on a $30 fine, give him that fine, release him, he has to go back to that same place. If he has no place else to go, is he going to pay that fine? Probably not. But is he going to continue that type of behavior? Probably. So I think that's the cycle that they're stuck into right now. Now, the other question that we asked about the license department, we've never got an answer from. We've sent out numerous letters to the director, Pat Hinton, and we haven't gotten back to see what is the status of that mission house. Are they operating to the laws and regulations that they should be? Because, you know, on paper, the mission house should serve the community. It should be a benefit to the community. It gives people with nothing else, no other options, no place to go, a place to go, because they are part of our community. They do deserve, you know, the warmth that we have to offer them when we could. But they have to operate within the guidelines of the city, and they have to be good for their community, and they have to be a good neighbor. Right now, just hearing all the testimony and all the comments from the speakers today for almost 45 minutes, you know, it's hard for me to believe they are being a good neighbor. It's hard for me to believe that mission house is putting more benefit into that community than it's actually taking out. And that's kind of where I feel right now. So, you know, I can't wait to get down there and meet with those neighbors and meet with the management of the mission house to see what's actually going on there, because it seems awful one-sided to me. Now, speaking to the chief, there's the long-term solution, which is the relocation and the rezoning of that area. They'll move, and it'll be rezoned. It will not be able to be used for that type of property again. Short-term solution, and I know it's difficult, but it's to report any illegal activity to the police, and it's to report any quality of life issues to quality of life officers, because it sounds like there's a lot going on. But right now, in knowing what I've known from the police reports for the last year or so, and hearing the testimony, I think, and this is for my money, I think the city should move to close down the Keystone Mission House. I think the steps need to start. I think that process needs to start. I don't think they're good for our community, not the way they're operating right now. I wouldn't want that problem moved somewhere else across the street, down the road. I think they're running this very poorly, and it's affecting that neighborhood for sure. And that's my stance on it. I don't want to speak for anybody else on this council. We all have our opinions on it, but I think the city should start the process of closing that down. It doesn't seem like it's a good fit where it is right now, and the management team there definitely doesn't seem like it should be doing what it should be doing. So I'm going to leave it right there, Mr. Rogan, and
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Mr. Donahue, any motions or comments?
Yes, just to touch on the Keystone mission. Like Mr. Perry said, I don't believe it's something that, necessarily the police chief. I think they're doing what they need to do down there. I think it's a licensing inspection problem, and it comes from the fact that there's no proactive leadership out of that department. Because now we're getting into the time of year where we start getting calls every day, with problems with the licensing and inspections department. So moving forward, to sort of fix the problem, myself and Mr. Evans sat down with members of the administration last year, and we're going to be putting out the city's going to be putting out a RFQ for someone to come in and do a full-blown analysis of the operations of that office. Meaning they'll come in, they'll put somebody in the office every day to see what every person in that office does to make sure they're being as effective with their time as they possibly can. So until that happens, I don't know, and we can't go up and just make them do their jobs up there. And I'm not saying that there's bad people that work in that office, it's just a lack of leadership. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Mr. Evans, any motions or comments?
Just a couple brief comments. First of all, I'd like to thank DA Powell and Chief Graziano for coming in tonight to talk about three important topics: homelessness, the decriminalization of marijuana, and the opioid crisis. The homeless problem is happening all over the country, but that does not excuse us from allowing that situation to continue. But I will applaud the residents for showing the passion and caring they have for their neighborhood. That tells us a lot about the citizens of Scranton and how they feel about their homes and their neighborhoods and their blocks. So hopefully we'll do our very, very best to try to help them solve that problem. Again, as was mentioned earlier, the long-term solution is to move them, rezone the area so it doesn't happen again, but we really have to do right by them now as best we can. So, and as far as DA Powell and Chief Graziano, it's important. I think those meetings that we had tonight are very, very important, not only for the public, but for us to have that dialogue with the law enforcement officials of the city and the county. The decriminalization of marijuana is something I think that we all have shown interest in, not necessarily for or against, but trying to find out what the right course of action is. Clearly, our local law enforcement officials feel the answer is at the state level, so we're going to take our cues from them, and I think we should press, as was stated tonight, press our state officials to move this forward in whatever manner is appropriate, but they have to take some sort of action and bring this to a head. Too many people are being hurt on both sides of this issue, so hopefully that can be resolved. The opioid crisis, we've all been impacted by it, by either family members or somebody we know or somebody, a friend. I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't think anybody does, but we have to do everything we can to bring awareness, to help, to console, to litigate, to have people arrested for these type of issues when they cause a death. It is just, as the chief said, a national tragedy and epidemic, and it's something we absolutely have to get our hands on. On a brighter note, last Friday was March 1st, which was St. David's Day, honoring the patron saint of Wales. So to all my Welsh family and friends, as well as everyone else viewing that has a Welsh descent, Cymru am byth, which means Wales forever, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Gahn, any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. I don't know how I missed this, but in early February, we received an email, or was copied on an email from Mr. Bolzoni about his recommendation to renew the contract for Joyce Atala, the recycling consultant that we've had for the past few years. So he did attach a memorandum for that. I don't know for sure if we're going to vote on this, or because the cost of her services, and her proposal was $10,000 for 18 months. But regardless of that, if we could ask Mrs. Hatala to come in and give us just an update on the progress that's been made over the first few months of her contract, if everybody would be okay with that in the next few weeks, I would appreciate that. Also, Mrs. Reed, if you could get in touch with Mr. Gallagher and just get an update on the sign project that was brought up tonight, I would appreciate that. Also, as I mentioned last week, Mrs. Reed and I have a meeting with the University of Scranton regarding the internship program that we're trying to get off the ground, so I'll report on that next week. I'd also like to thank the DPW. There was a family that, actually the neighbors have been complaining about a light that's been out on the 1200 block of Blair Avenue, and the DPW did fix that, so I want to thank them. And just to touch on the Keystone Mission on Olive Street, you know, I saw the video clip that the one gentleman provided, saw all of the police reports and all of the pictures. To say that it's unacceptable is an understatement. And I really think, after listening to everybody, I've been down there, I run on the trail, I've been to Mr. O'Boyle's house quite a few times for different issues. There's only one, I think there's only one solution, and that's to either condemn the place, shut it down, or have them move out. I don't think the city should be worried about helping them move out of the area. And the reason I don't think that is because it's obvious that the people that are associated with this place have no respect for the city, and they have no respect for the residents who have lived there for generations. After sitting here for 45 minutes to an hour and listening to all the neighbors, it's clear that this is a recurring problem year in and year out. And, you know, we condemn houses in the city for far less than people defecating in the neighborhood, urinating in the neighborhood, doing drugs in the neighborhood, so on and so forth. So I think that the Keystone Mission has lost the opportunity to have the respect of city officials in the city. So I think there is only one solution: condemn the place, find a way to condemn it, and get them out of that neighborhood, because they're quite literally ruining people's lives, especially the elderly who've lived there for their whole entire lives. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, regarding the Keystone Mission, I guess we'll start there. I know Councilman Perry suggested shutting it down. It seems that Councilman Gahn agrees as well. I'm not so sure if I would go quite that far yet, but I understand where my colleagues are coming from. As I mentioned during the caucus, which unfortunately some people may not have heard, there is a need for social services. I'm more a proponent of helping people help themselves. You know, you give them a hand up, not a handout. But I do think that, you know, something has to be done as far as relocation goes. I want to thank the district attorney and our police chief for coming in to speak about those issues. And again, there's much more that's going to come from this. I know we're sending out some correspondence as well to look into zoning, to look into some other items. But I want to thank my colleagues for all their hard work. I know Councilman Perry's been in touch with the police chief a lot about this issue, and it's what we saw tonight was what we have been getting for a while from all of the residents. You know, I know we've all talked to them. It just seems tonight everything kind of came to a head. So it is something we've been working on as a council, but tonight it certainly got a lot more attention than it has in weeks past. Again, we had the district attorney and the chief in also about decriminalization of marijuana. One thing I do want to, and again, I don't know, because of the audio system wasn't working, the comment was made regarding selective enforcement or something of that nature. The chief's comment was, if we do decriminalize, that at that point the officers, it would be at their discretion to choose whether they're going to follow state law, which has not decriminalized, or city law, which has. So that's the conflict that he was speaking about, was if we do go in that direction. Currently, the city law and state law are in sync regarding that issue. I agree with the position of our police chief and our district attorney. I am a staunch supporter of medical marijuana. I think there's a lot of value. It could help a lot of people. Recreational marijuana, I do not support. But if the state or federal government were to change that, obviously we would have to comply with the state or the federal laws. So I do want to really thank our district attorney and our police chief again for coming in. And I did mention this during the meeting, but I want to mention it publicly. I also want to thank District Attorney Powell for his action regarding Rocky's Bar. I know this has been reported quite a bit in the media, but this was a nuisance bar where there was multiple shootings, it seems, shooting, stabbings, all kinds of issues. So I think his action to shut it down was the right action. And hopefully, if and when it does reopen, it'll be under new management or the current owners will get things straightened out at that property. And that is all. Thank you.
5B for introduction and ordinance authorizing the installation of two-hour parking only restrictions directly in front of 934 Beach Street, Zaleski's Clubhouse Cafe.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution authorizing the Department of Public Works foreman Christopher Jenkins to act as agent for City of Scranton for emergency and disaster relief pursuant to the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, and authorizing city officials to execute the designation of agent and the PEMA Public Disaster Assistance Application and Agreement for financial assistance.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution accepting a donation from John F. Kennedy Elementary School students in the amount of $250 to the City of Scranton Police Department for their Scranton Police SRO Summer Camp.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
Yeah, just quickly on the question. This, not often I can talk about two alma maters in the same night, but I did go to Kennedy School, and it's a fantastic facility. I know right now there, Principal Barrett and the whole faculty and staff do a great job, and this is much appreciated. Thank you.
anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a cooperation agreement between the United States of America and the City of Scranton for rehabilitation of non-federal flood control work in Scranton, Pennsylvania on Scranton-Stafford Meadowbrook.
This time we'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question. Back in August of last year, 2018, we had a major storm, flooding all over the city, and our Meadowbrook Flood Protection Project was seriously damaged. So what this legislation is doing is having the city enter into an agreement, a cooperation agreement with the federal government, and they are going to provide most of the costs for rehabilitation. The city's on the hook for $75,386. The federal government is estimating rehabilitation efforts at $376,929. So the city's picking up 20% of the cost there. I would like to ask, and I've already asked Mrs. Reed this, if we could request before final passage of this legislation, the report that is mentioned in this legislation entitled Rehabilitation of Damaged Flood Damage Reduction Works, Scranton Stafford Meadowbrook Non-Federal Flood Protection Project, which was prepared by the District Engineer, U.S. Army Engineer District, Baltimore, approved by the Division Engineer on January 2nd, 2019. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the council number 57, 2019, an ordinance amending file of the council number 50, 2018, an ordinance amending file of the council number 22, 2016, an ordinance entitled Defining and Authorizing Tax Exemptions from Real Property Tax in order to stimulate residential, commercial, and other business activity in certain areas in the city of Scranton, establishing an exemption schedule and procedures for obtaining exemptions, providing for non-permissible exemptions, and limiting amendment thereto in order to expand the eligible areas, increase the duration of each exemption, and to lift the cap on each exemption by deleting Section 7, non-permissible, in its entirety due to a clerical error.
For reading by title of item 6A, what is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, file of the Council Number 56, 2019, authorizing installation of no parking signs along the northerly and southerly sides of Broadway Street along the bicycle lanes in the vicinity of the trail crossings near the University of Scranton Sports Complex that were installed in conjunction with the LHVA Scranton Safety Improvements Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 103, 2019, appointment of Wayne Beck, 105 Yesu Drive, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18505, to serve as a member of the Land Bank, effective February 9, 2019. Mr. Beck is being appointed to a 5-year term, which will expire on February 9, 2024.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 104, 2019, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a Beautiful Blocks program proposal by and between the City of Scranton and NeighborWorks, Northeastern Pennsylvania, to encourage groups of neighbors to improve their homes by providing matching grants for exterior improvements.
What is the recommendation for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, first of all, I'd like to thank Councilman Gahn for his insightful comments last week on this legislation. For me, this is another game changer for our residents and for our neighborhoods. I'd like to add to those comments from last week. In Oswego, New York, where a similar program has been very successful, they have seen firsthand the benefits to their entire city, where residents have joined with the Oswego Renaissance Association to begin to transform Oswego. Grants totaling approximately $575,000 have been invested through the program, and $2.5 million in private investment has been leveraged into the neighborhoods of Oswego. While the city has provided the seed money this year, as well as a donation from the University of Scranton, we view this as an opportunity for foundations, for nonprofits, for banks using community reinvestment dollars, and almost anyone else that would like to invest in our city and our neighborhoods to be our partners. Along with our program partner NeighborWorks, who is a vital role in this great program. So we want to strengthen one of our greatest assets, our neighborhoods, by helping another of our greatest assets, our residents and our homeowners who stuck by this city when others have chosen to walk away. We want to make our strong neighborhoods stronger, as well as improving our stable neighborhoods, and also by helping our at-risk blocks where we can. I think this program is going to make an amazing difference in the city of Scranton. I just can't wait to get started. And that's all I have on that.
And I wasn't here last week. I want to thank Councilman Evans for his work on this. I know you mentioned this to us about a year or so ago, and this is, again, another great incentive for residents in our city to get together and make their blocks and their neighborhoods much better to live in. So I want to thank Councilman Evans and NeighborWorks. They've been a great partner of the city's, and this is something we're certainly looking forward to. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, previously tabled, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, file of the Council Number 52, 2019, establishing a no parking zone along the southerly side of Lackawanna and Jefferson Avenue from segment 0010 offset 0300 Kressler Court intersection, extending north to a driveway at segment 0010 offset 0630.
What is the recommendation of the chair for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question?
Yes, on the question, I'm going to be voting against this resolution for two reasons. One, we never got a response back from PennDOT. And two, I don't believe that the zoning board should ever have gave a variance for this project. It's just another example of us just doing something just to do it instead of it being part of a long-term plan.
On the question, I too am extremely disappointed that in several weeks since we had our meeting to table, PennDOT did not respond to our request. The fact that PennDOT can invoke their myriad of rules and regulations on state roads in our city without the input of elected officials, or without even giving us the opportunity to have a conversation with them, and possibly improving our downtown and our city for pedestrians as well as motor vehicle traffic, is just plain wrong. I voted to bring this off the table and for a vote tonight because the developers should not be penalized because they are subject to the archaic rules and regulations of the DOT through no fault of their own. So I'll be asking my colleagues, hopefully during the week, that if we can schedule a meeting with PennDOT and have a real conversation on how this process works, and in many cases does not work. We have to find some common ground rooted in common sense and not just based on more rules and more regulations that do not solve the problem.
I too am upset about the lack of a reply back from PennDOT, but I think Councilman Evans hit the nail on the head. We certainly don't want to penalize a developer who's looking to spend millions of dollars in our city because another branch of government did not reply. I do think we need to continue this conversation when there are parking issues, and I do not like the fact that we are going to lose some spots in the downtown, but I think the benefit of having a new development on a vacant piece of land far outweighs losing the couple parking spots.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm voting for this just for the pure fact that, you know, this legislation does not say anything about the project that's going up near Kildare's. We are voting on requirements that are mandated by PennDOT. I mean, whether you agree with this project or disagree with it, that's not what we're voting on. So, I mean, you know, you could certainly can debate the zoning board's decision, but it passed, and it passed the planning commission as well. So my concern is if, you know, we start voting pieces of legislation like this down because we don't like the projects, we in essence, you know, almost become a second zoning board, which is not, I don't believe is our role, and I also believe it may open us up to legal challenges. That just is my opinion. So I'm voting yes because we are simply voting on requirements that are mandated by PennDOT and because this is the process that you go through. So,
okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. Yeah, on the question, I want to just touch on a little bit. I'm already on the record of how I felt about that zoning board decision that approved this project. They were wrong then and they're wrong today. However, I do totally understand what Councilman Gahn is saying, and my vote tonight is based on the DOT action and the lack thereof by coming to us and having a conversation. I do not want to penalize the developers. That's why I brought it off the table to allow for a vote tonight.
Yeah, finally, on the question, I think Mr. Gahan hit the nail on the head. Really, all we can do is vote on the black and white in front of us, and that's what I'm doing. This reminds me a lot about the past year Sheets project, where we had up before us PennDOT lanes that needed to be adjusted and fixed for traffic flow. And, you know, it had nothing to do with that actual Sheets project. It was just something that had to come across our desk to approve that planning on the streets. This is very similar to that. So to go any deeper in that, I don't feel it's right, but I do agree with the fact that you know, PennDOT should have gave us the time of day to give us a response back to our request. We did table it. We did hold up this developer for a couple of weeks because of this, because we want to do our due diligence. But I don't think we should do that any longer. But I am in agreement of meeting with Department of Transportation so we can have better communication going forward and getting to this crossroad before we get to a point of no return like kind of we are now. So, on this legislation here, I'll be for this as it speaks.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
No.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Meeting adjourned.